Alrighty, we are finally sitting down to watch the new Scream, and over the past week we've been watching the first four, and I gotta say, having never watched the Scream franchise before, they're pretty solid movies. So I got pretty high hopes for this one.
Oh, and we got some Chipotle.
Now that is how you make a slasher movie that takes place 25 years after the first one. Leatherface and these other franchises need to take some notes. Scream 2022, or what it should be called, Scream 5. I really feel like there was no reason for them to call it just Scream. I had high expectations for this one. All the rave this movie was getting was actually the reason why I said, you know what? I've never seen any of the Scream movies. Let's sit down and watch them all. And so every single Scream movie, and a couple episodes of the TV show, which is not too bad actually, are pretty fresh in my mind. And so I think this review is going to be a little more critical because of that. I guess I'll start with the positives. The movie looks good. The cast is great, being that this is the first Scream movie that hasn't been directed by Wes Craven. It does feel like a Wes Craven movie, for the most part. I feel like Scream 4 and 5 really amped up the realism when it came to people getting stabbed, because in those first three, people get stabbed like once or twice and they just die. Whereas in 4 and 5, I mean, people get stabbed dozens of times and they're still alive. But there was a particular scene towards the end of this one where one of the killers, and yes, usually there's two killers, is getting stabbed a lot. And it was very realistic. I feel like he was just sitting there like, stop! You know, like, I'm getting stabbed like multiple times. And that's cool. I like that they're being more realistic when it comes to the kills. And then I guess we'll start talking about some of the bad stuff. Dewey is my favorite character. And in Scream 5, they chose to do a little bit of stuff with his backstory that I don't know if I was totally on board with, but I did like seeing that he was a more grizzled, kind of seen some shit type of guy. And so in this movie, when he decides to show up and help and his little theme starts playing, I legitimately got chills and I had a smile on my face. And then 20 or 30 minutes later, they do what they do with this character, and I don't want to get into full spoilers. I know a lot of people have probably seen it by now, but I was really unhappy with what they did with this character, and I feel like after that point in the movie, that's when things started to go downhill a little bit. The first half of this movie is pretty damn solid. The second half, I feel like there's a little bit of pacing issues. It's almost like they should have cut like 15 to 20 minutes off of this movie. And that's something that I never really noticed with the other Scream movies. Even Scream 3, with how much of a nightmare that script supposedly was, felt like it was paced pretty well. And that's honestly one of the biggest gripes with this movie. It's just the writing, the pacing. And I know I get a lot of questions. People ask me which Scream movie is my favorite. Personally, this is just me, my opinion, I had the most fun watching Scream 4. I thought it was the perfect blend of the old characters and some newer characters. And this one being a requel or a soft reboot, having those legacy characters as well as these new characters that I thought actually had some pretty good backstories, especially the main two sisters. I cared enough about these characters that, you know, I didn't want them to die, but, you know, it's a Scream movie, so I'm curious who's gonna die, and I'm also curious who the killers are gonna be. And one of the issues that I have with the Scream movies is that while they're meant to be fun and poking at the horror genres, I feel like they kind of come off as smarter than they really are. That first Scream movie is genius. And then after that, they've kind of repeated the same formula over and over and over, and being that these are kind of whodunit movies, I feel like it's kind of a cheap gimmick that you go back and look, and there's usually no clues to figure out who it actually is. You kind of just have to go off of a hunch. And I feel like in this one of the killers was kind of easy to guess, the other one, not so much, but I did have a hunch. So the reveal wasn't that crazy. And one other thing that really irked me, and I don't know if I would really count it as a spoiler because it's kind of revealed like 10 minutes into the movie, is the fact that they're saying that this main character is the daughter of Billy Loomis. And they show Billy Loomis in these little like moments that don't really do anything for the story. They're kind of just like there and they don't do anything with it. So I could have done without that. But other than that, I had a lot of fun with it. Some things could have been done a little better, but for the most part, being the first one that Wes Craven has not directed, it was pretty solid, and I'm very curious to see what they do with Scream 6, which I will be going to the theater to see next year in March. And that'll be the first one that I see in theaters. Another thing that I noticed is that off the top of my head, I don't remember too many funny moments. The previous Scream movies had tons of mixed in humor. This one just felt a lot more serious. And I do think that might be part of the reason that the second half just doesn't feel as fun. And one last thing I want to say before I give this movie a score is that the directors are actually a couple of guys that I used to watch on YouTube back in the day on a channel called Chad, Matt, and Rob. And you might be able to go back and watch these videos. But I always loved loved their little creative approach to these horror short films or these little interactive adventures. And so I had no clue that they had made Ready or Not, and this, I still need to watch Ready or Not. But being a content creator who is also getting into filmmaking and working on my own projects, it's inspirational, and I'll be keeping an eye on what else they're doing. I'm gonna give the new Scream a 6.5 out of 10. I honestly think the Scream franchise is one of the most consistently good horror slasher franchises in the genre. And knowing who is behind this one, I really do think that they're going to listen to the fans' feedback because they're fans themselves. And so if Scream 6 isn't better or it doesn't work on some of the things that I had gripes with, I might be a little harder on that one. And I think I will be doing a ranking / review video on these 5 movies when we get closer to that release of the 6th one next year. And before I go, guys, GFUEL code DannyD is 30% off this weekend. It's 30% off till Tuesday. And there's also some select collector's boxes. They're discounted to $30. So adding that 30% off code brings them down to $21. So a great time to pick up some GFUEL. You get a shaker, a tub, a collector's box, and a cool sticker. I highly recommend Raspberry Iced Tea. It's one of my favorites, and it's a part of that sale. Use that code to not only save you some dinero, but also support my content and allow me to keep doing these videos for a living. And also, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to comment the word tea, because if I scroll through the comments and I saw that you commented the word tea, I know you watched the whole thing and you're a real one. I'm actually about to go see The Lost City, so stay tuned for that review very soon. But until then, as always, stay safe, be nice to each other out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!